I hadn't seen Sammy in nearly a year. We texted here and there, but she'd always been a little quiet since moving out to the countryside. When she invited me for the weekend, I said yes without thinking. I needed the break. School was a mess, my house was loud, and I thought a few nights in a quiet old house with my best friend would be the easiest thing in the world. Sammy's house looked like it had been forgotten by time. Tucked behind a wall of pine trees so thick they blocked out the sun, it sat hunched at the end of a dirt road, where the fog curled low and unmoving, like it had been sleeping there for weeks. The paint was the color of paper left in the rain, pale, peeling, and just a little sick. No cars passed, no birds called, and the silence wasn't peaceful. It was thick, pressurized, like the kind of quiet that comes after something terrible, not before. Inside, the house was clean, but everything felt paused. The lights were dim, the clocks ticked too loudly, and the rug smelled faintly of dampness and something sweeter beneath it, like fruit going soft. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the moment I stepped across the threshold, my skin tightened, like my body noticed something my brain couldn't yet name. Sammy greeted me like everything was normal, and for a while, I let myself believe it was. I hadn't seen her in almost a year, not since she moved out here. Her texts had been spaced out, short, sometimes a little strange. When she asked me to come stay for the weekend, I said yes without thinking. School was a mess, my house was chaos, and Sammy was still one of the only people who ever made silence feel safe. Her mom met me at the door, tight smile, polite eyes, and her dad waved from deeper in the hallway, but didn't come close. They looked like the kind of couple who whispered arguments behind closed doors and never touched in front of company. Dinner was spaghetti. Basic, warm, unassuming. I started to think maybe I was just overreacting. The house was weird, sure, but rural homes were always a little behind. Sammy talked like she used to, laughed at the right places, asked about school. We didn't bring up the fact that she had barely replied to my last 10 messages. It was all normal. Until her dad said it. Remember the rule, girls. 9 o'clock means doors locked. You stay in your room after that. No exceptions. He said it like someone reminding us to take our vitamins. Not angry, not dramatic, just final. I blinked. I thought maybe he was joking, but Sammy didn't laugh. She checked the clock, 8:42, and took my wrist, gently, and led me toward her room. Wait, I said, half laughing. That's just like your dad being strict, right? What happens after 9? Is this some kind of weird religious thing? She didn't answer. Not then. She just closed her bedroom door behind us, locked it, slid a thick bolt across the top, and quietly pushed her desk in front of the knob. I watched her move like someone repeating a routine, fast, practiced, unthinking. You're not joking, I said. She turned around slowly, brushing her hair behind her ear. Her voice was soft. Just don't open the door. That's all you have to do. Sammy, come on. What happens after 9? She sat down on the bed and pulled her knees up to her chest. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. Sometimes it knocks. Sometimes it talks like someone you love. I felt the blood drain from my face. What are you talking about? Her voice got even quieter. Last time, it sounded like my cousin. He's been missing for 3 years, but it knew his voice. It said he forgot his charger. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding harder than it should have. I tried to laugh again, but my mouth felt wrong. Sammy, that's a really dark joke. She didn't smile. The clock ticked. 9 o'clock came, and everything changed. The air felt heavier, like the pressure had dropped suddenly, the way it does before a thunderstorm, except this was colder. The walls creaked differently, duller, like someone walking upstairs, even though we were already on the top floor. The silence wasn't just silence anymore. It felt occupied. Sami turned off the light, pulled the blanket over her shoulders, and whispered, "Don't answer it! Don't speak! Don't open the door!" I lay there beside her, stiff as stone, staring at the sliver of light beneath the door. At 9:14, something tapped. Not knocked, tapped, soft and steady, like fingernails, like a rhythm meant to sound friendly. Then, at 9:21, it spoke. "Maya," it said. My father's voice. "It's me, baby. I'm outside. Come open up, sweetheart. I've been driving all night." My blood turned to ice. Sami reached across the bed and grabbed my hand. Her grip was tight. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then she whispered, "It knows your name now." I didn't sleep that night. Even after the tapping stopped, even after the voice fell silent, I lay in that bed beside Sami like my bones had been swapped out with cold iron. The clock on her dresser ticked on. 10:30, then 11:47, then 1:12, and with every hour that passed, I kept waiting for something else to begin. Another knock, another voice, a hand sliding under the door. But nothing came. I must have drifted off sometime around dawn, because when I opened my eyes again, the pale gray of morning had seeped into the room. Sami was already up, sitting cross-legged by the window, sketching something on a folded piece of paper with a pencil that looked nearly chewed in half. I sat up slowly. My head throbbed, and I could still hear my father's voice in my memory, warped slightly, as if played through cheap speakers. "Did you hear it too?" I asked. She didn't look up. It always comes when someone new's in the house. I pushed the blanket off my legs. "So, what, you live with this? Your parents know?" Sami finally turned to me. "They're the ones who taught me the rules. It doesn't come for them anymore. It already knows them too well." Her eyes looked hollow, not dead, just distant, like someone who had been staring through too many peepholes for too many nights. I stood and stretched, my spine popping. "Okay, but we need to talk about this. I mean, like, logically. You said it used your cousin's voice. Now it's using my dad's?" She nodded once. "It always chooses someone who could convince you to open the door." Something about that chilled me more than the voice itself. It didn't just mimic. It chose. It studied. What happens if someone does open the door? Sami's lips parted slightly. Then she looked down at the paper in her lap and flipped it over. There was a name written there. Devin. I hadn't heard it before. He was my cousin, my favorite person in the world. She traced the letters like a prayer. When he was 12, he stayed the weekend. Said he heard his dog barking in the hallway. Thought it had gotten out of the laundry room. A pause. He opened the door. I waited. She didn't continue. What happened to him? Sami looked at me, and for the first time since I'd arrived, she seemed younger than me. Fragile. Like someone held together with tape. "We never found him, but sometimes we still hear him." I blinked. "You hear him like last night?" "No, not like that. I mean in the vents. Whispering, begging. But wrong, like something is wearing his voice now." We ate breakfast in silence. Her mom placed scrambled eggs on the table without speaking. Her dad nodded once, eyes half-lidded, already holding a mug of coffee that had clearly gone cold. No one mentioned the night before. It was like it didn't exist, like the house wanted me to forget. But I couldn't. I spent most of the day pacing, my mind racing in endless circles. Why would they stay here? Why would anyone?
That night, around 7, Sami handed me a roll of masking tape. She said, "Seal the vents." I stared at her. Seriously? She didn't smile. It makes it harder for it to whisper. We did it together, quietly, over the air return, over the vent near the closet, over the tiny slit beneath the door. At 8:59, we were back in bed. 9:04, silence. 9:12, the air pressure dropped again. My ears popped. 9:15, tap, tap, tap. Then a voice. It wasn't my dad this time. "Maya, it's Sami. I left something in the hallway. Could you just crack the door and pass it to me?" My whole body went still. I turned my head. Sami was lying right beside me, eyes wide open, not speaking. She didn't blink. The voice outside was hers. I didn't speak. I didn't move. Sami was lying inches away from me, her real body solid and silent, her breathing shallow. The version of her in the hallway, the thing using her voice, knocked once more. "Maya?" it said, this time quieter, almost hurt. "Are you mad at me?" My stomach twisted. Sami reached under the blanket, her fingers curling around my wrist. She shook her head, slow, sharp, and mouthed 2 words. "Don't move." The voice kept going, same tone, same cadence. Every pause was perfectly timed. Every inflection matched the real Sami exactly, even the slight breathiness in her laugh. "Come on, just 1 second. I swear I won't let it get you. I just need my notebook." I clutched the blanket in my fists and stared at the ceiling. The real Sami whispered, barely audible, "It doesn't know what it's asking for. It's trying guesses, testing what makes you move." It was worse somehow, knowing it wasn't just mimicking, but learning. The voice at the door changed again. "Maya." But it didn't sound like Sami anymore. "It's your mom. I'm here early, honey. You left your jacket in the car." My throat closed. It was perfect. My mom's voice, right down to the way she always clipped the in honey when she was tired. I bit the inside of my cheek and felt tears pressing behind my eyes. Sami gripped my wrist further. "It's bluffing. It can't come in unless we let it." "Maya, baby, I'm getting cold out here." I turned my face into the pillow. Eventually, it stopped. The air stayed heavy, the silence still strange, but the voices left. Or at least, they stopped pretending. In the morning, I felt brittle, like I'd been scraped out from the inside and held together with skin. Sami looked the same, eyes bruised from sleeplessness, shoulders tense. Over toast, I asked her the question I'd been holding in my chest since the night before. Why does it want us to open the door? She chewed slowly and answered without looking up. Because it can't. That didn't answer anything. I pushed harder. But what is it? Why this house? Why you? Finally, she looked at me and it was like something cracked. "It's not the house, Maya. It's us. Once it's seen you, it remembers you. The first time it used my voice, I was 6. A chill worked down my spine. So it follows you? Not all the time. Only when someone new shows up. It gets excited. It thinks, maybe this time someone opens the door." I let the silence sit. "And if they do?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, opened the closet, and pulled something out from the back. A small, weathered journal. She handed it to me. The cover was cracked leather, and inside were pages filled with tiny, cramped handwriting. Letters. Some dated, some not. All addressed to someone named Devon. Each one described sounds, voices, doors, dreams. Each one ended the same way. "I'm sorry I didn't open it for you. I'm sorry if it was really you, but I couldn't be sure. I couldn't be sure. That night, I set my phone on record and slid it under the crack in the door. I needed proof, something outside us, something I could take back. At 2:13 a.m., a voice whispered, "Do you really want to leave her here alone?" It wasn't mine. It wasn't Sammy's. It was me, but older, tired, broken. And I said, we have to open it sometime. But I hadn't spoken.
I played the recording back 6 times before I said anything to Sami. We sat on her bedroom floor the next morning, the journal between us, the windows still fogged from the night. I held my phone out, pressed play, let it speak for itself. We have to open it sometime. It was my voice, my tone, my hesitation, but I hadn't said those words. I would have remembered. Sami stared at the phone and didn't blink. Then, calmly, she reached into her bottom drawer and pulled out a black permanent marker. Without explanation, she pressed it into my palm. "Write it down," she said. "What?" "The words it used. All of them. Write them down and don't say them out loud again. That's how it makes copies." I looked at her like she was crazy, but then I saw her own notebook filled with phrases carefully crossed out in thick black lines. Phrases like, "It's just me. Please, let me in. Don't leave me out here." Her lips were trembling. She didn't want me to see it, but she was scared. Of the words, of what happened if they were repeated. "Why would it copy my voice?" I asked. "Because it liked the way you sounded when you were scared." That stopped me cold. Later that day, I sat in the hallway just outside her bedroom, door propped open, needing space, needing light. The house felt too small, the air too still. Sammy's parents didn't ask questions. Her mom walked past me like I wasn't there. Her dad sat in the living room, TV off, staring out the window. He looked like he was waiting for something, or maybe listening to something only he could hear. I found a family photo on the hallway table, dusty, slightly crooked in the frame. It showed Sami when she was younger, maybe 8 or 9, smiling, her cousin Devon beside her. Behind them was the house, but it was different. The paint was fresh, the trees younger, the sky clear. The only thing that hadn't changed was the front door and the chain lock across it, the one I hadn't seen used since I arrived. "Why don't you just leave?" I asked Sami when I came back in. She sat cross-legged on the bed again, flipping through the journal. "It doesn't work like that." "Why not?" "Because you can't run from something that remembers you." That night, I dreamed of a hallway, endless, gray, lit by one swaying bulb. At the far end, someone stood facing the wall. I walked closer, and the closer I got, the more I realized they were saying something, muttering, "Don't open it, don't open it, don't open it." And then the figure turned around. It was me, but my eyes were gone. I woke up gasping. It was 2:41 a.m. The room was dark, and Sami was gone. The desk had been moved. The bolt was unlatched. The doorknob was turning. The doorknob turned with the slow, deliberate motion of someone trying not to be heard. I didn't move. For a moment, I thought maybe I was still dreaming. That this was another one of those not real spaces where your fear turns clumsy and symbolic. But the cold was real. The smell of pine sap and rust leaking through the crack under the door was real. And the silence? Too real. "Sami?" I whispered. No response. I reached for the flashlight beside the bed and clicked it on. The beam landed on the empty mattress, the rumpled blankets, the open vent near the closet. My stomach dropped.
She had taped that vent shut last night. I'd seen her do it. Now the tape was peeled back in careful, clean strips, as if removed by someone with no fingernails. The knob clicked. I ran to the door and shoved my shoulder against it, not because something was pushing in, but because I had to feel it was still there, that I was still here. Sami, if this is a joke, I'm right here. Her voice, right behind me. I turned fast, too fast, flashlight beams slicing through the dark. She stood near the closet, still, breathing heavily. In her hand was the recorder from my phone. "You were sleepwalking," she said quietly. "What?" "You undid the bolt, started toward the door. I had to pull you back." I shook my head. "No, that's not. I remember waking up. I saw. You thought you woke up." She handed me the recorder. I hit play. At first it was silence, then static, then my own voice, slurred, dreamlike. "I just want to know what it is." Another voice, hers? "You don't need to know. Just stay here." And then, softly, my voice again. "I just want to know what it is." The doorknob turned with the slow, deliberate motion of someone trying not to be heard. I didn't move. For a moment, I thought maybe I was still dreaming, that this was another one of those not real spaces where your fear turns clumsy and symbolic. But the cold was real. The smell of pine sap and rust leaking through the crack under the door was real. And the silence, too real. "Sami?" I whispered. No response. I reached for the flashlight beside the bed and clicked it on. The beam landed on the empty mattress, the rumpled blankets, the open vent near the closet. My stomach dropped. She had taped that vent shut last night. I'd seen her do it. Now the tape was peeled back in careful, clean strips, as if removed by someone with no fingernails. The knob clicked. I ran to the door and shoved my shoulder against it, not because something was pushing in, but because I had to feel it was still there, that I was still here. "Sami, if this is a joke, I'm right here." Her voice, right behind me. I turned fast, too fast, flashlight beams slicing through the dark. She stood near the closet, still, breathing heavily. In her hand was the recorder from my phone. "You were sleepwalking," she said quietly. "What?" "You undid the bolt, started toward the door. I had to pull you back." I shook my head. "No, that's not. I remember waking up. I saw." "You thought you woke up." She handed me the recorder. I hit play. At first, it was silence, then static, then my own voice, slurred, dreamlike. "I just want to know what it is." Another voice, hers? "You don't need to know. Just stay here." And then softly, my voice again. But it sounds like someone I used to love. The next morning, we didn't talk about it. Sami made coffee. Her hands shook as she poured it. I sat at the table and stared at the door, the way the light from outside painted a crooked line across the floorboards, like it was trying to reach something. Her mom came in, picked up her cup, and paused when she saw me. "Did you hear anything strange last night?" It was the first full sentence she'd spoken to me since I arrived. "Yes," I said. She nodded, like she expected it, like she'd been hoping the answer would be different. "It's getting bolder," she muttered. Then, without another word, she left the room. Later, I went into the basement. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe, or a kind of instinct, the same one that made me want to touch a hot stove as a kid just to know what pain meant. The stairs creaked too loudly. The basement was unfinished, cold. One bare bulb swung above a concrete floor and cinder block walls. There were storage bins, Christmas boxes, an old treadmill. And in the far corner, covered in an old white sheet, was a door. Not the outside kind. A door inside the basement, with no frame, no knob. Just there. Wrong. Painted black. Scratched. All the scratches started in the center and pulled outward, like something had been trying to claw its way out. I turned to run, and from behind me, I heard my voice again. "Maya, please don't leave. It's lonely in here."
That afternoon, I found the key. It was hidden in the bottom of one of Sami's old sketchbooks, wedged between two glued pages, taped inside the binding like a secret she didn't want to keep but couldn't throw away. It wasn't labeled. Old, iron, blackened at the edges like it had been through fire. I held it in my hand and felt the weight of it settle in my bones. It wasn't for the bedroom door. And I knew, before I even asked, what it opened. Sami found me standing at the top of the basement stairs, the key clenched in my fist. Her voice was soft. "You don't want to do this. Why didn't you tell me about the key?" She didn't answer. "The thing behind that door, it's not just knocking anymore. It's mimicking. It's inside the walls. It's learning." Still no response. I said it waits, that it remembers. But it doesn't just wait, does it? It wants something. She finally looked up. It wants to be known. I stepped down one stair, then another. "Tell me who you called for." Sami flinched. "Last night, the voice said you opened the door once, that you said my name. Was it lying?" Her silence was the answer. "Why, Sami?" Her voice cracked. "Because I thought it would give you back." "Give me back?" "The first night you stayed here, I heard you cry in your sleep. You said someone's name, over and over. I thought if I opened the door, it would listen, that it could bring them to you." I stared at her. "You let it in for me?" She shook her head. "No, I tried, but I couldn't open it all the way. I saw your face, but it wasn't you. It was smiling too wide, and your hands were backward." That night, the tapping didn't come. The air stayed still. The pressure didn't drop. The voice never returned. And that scared me more than anything, because it meant it was waiting, not knocking, waiting to be invited. At 3:03 a.m., I sat at the top of the basement stairs, the key in one hand, the recorder in the other. I clicked it on and whispered, "If I open it, do you stop pretending to be the people I love?" From below, a voice responded instantly, "No." "Do you stop using their names?" "No." "Then what do you want?" Silence. Then, "It wants your face." I left the key on the stairs. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt like a line in the dirt. A test. Or maybe I was hoping Sami would see it and stop me. But when I turned back, she was standing in the hall, her face unreadable in the dark. "Don't do it," she said.
Not a warning, a prayer. Then tell me what's really behind it. She didn't. She couldn't. So I kept walking. The basement was colder than before. The door was still there, black, unframed, sealed only by absence. My steps slowed as I approached it, like the air had thickened into syrup. The scratches in the wood caught the light in strange patterns, almost like writing. The key was warm when I picked it up again. The lock appeared only when I touched it, like it had been waiting for the right hand. It clicked once, then twice, and then the silence collapsed. A sound poured out of the walls, like wind, but sharper, hungrier. I stumbled back and the door didn't swing inward. It breathed, it bowed, it shivered. And then it whispered, "Let me show you what's yours." 1,000 voices at once. Every person I'd ever loved, everyone I'd lost. Their laughter, their screams, my own name, over and over from 100 different mouths. I turned to run, but the stairs were gone, replaced by hallway after hallway, door after door, mirrors that didn't reflect, pictures of people with eyes moved, and the sound of footsteps behind me, always just close enough to hear, never close enough to catch. I don't know how long I wandered. Time didn't work right there. But eventually I saw a door that wasn't black. It was red. My childhood bedroom door. I opened it and stepped through and woke up. I was back in Sami's bed. The sun was rising. Her hand was on my shoulder. "You weren't breathing," she said. "You were gone." I sat up, choking on air, my throat raw. "What happened?" she asked. "It let me in." "You opened the door?" I think I became it." She stared at me horrified. "No," I said slowly. "Not all of it, but I understand now." "Understand what?" I turned to face her. "Why it knocks, why it waits. It's not trying to hurt us." "Then what?" "It's trying to be us." I left Sami's house that afternoon. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't take my phone. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Because the voice had said one more thing before I woke up. "Now that you've let me in, you'll knock too."